Hello, my name is Professor Gordon McKerran. I'm Co-Principal Investigator for the TRANSrisk project. In this presentation I'm going to take you through some highlights of the second year of our project. TRANSrisk is a global study of low-carbon transition pathways that are technically, economically and socially feasible. A key focus of our work is understanding the risks and uncertainties that lie within these potential transitions. TRANSrisk received nearly €7.5 million of funding from the EU Horizon 2020 programme, with an additional €500,000 from other governments and organisations. The project started in September 2015 and will run for 3 years. 12 leading universities and research units have come together for TRANSrisk. In addition to organisations based in European countries, we also have researchers based in North and South America and Asia and Africa. This broad partnership allows us to bring together the diverse range of expertise that is necessary to successfully implement the project. It also provides the global reach needed to understand the range of potential transition pathways in different parts of the world. In TRANSrisk, we're combining qualitative and quantitative approaches. This means we're combining computer models of socio-economic systems with inputs from people involved in this area of studies, who we refer to as stakeholders. This approach brings some unique benefits. Models can help stakeholders see the potential impact of their views on the climate and the economy, whilst the models themselves can become better grounded in real-world knowledge. It also brings some unique challenges. Which models should we use, and how can they best be integrated into stakeholder work? Should we assume that all transition pathways need to comply with a 2° centigrade climate stabilisation target, or should stakeholders be allowed to set a different pathway if they think it's unrealistic? In our first year, we agreed a methodological framework that addressed these questions. We built in sufficient flexibility to allow our case study leaders to adapt the framework to local circumstances. After carrying out the groundwork for the project in year 1, our second year has seen scientific outputs really start to flow. Our country case studies, which form the core of the project, have engaged with stakeholders and started to produce their scientific outputs. Other outputs have explored risks, uncertainties and opportunities across a range of potential energy transitions. We've also started to disseminate the initial outputs from our project through means such as scientific papers, news articles and conference presentations. TRANSrisk's key outputs are all available on our website, which is transrisk- that's midline, project.eu. In addition to scientific outputs, we're also documenting our plans and procedures. This will help other projects learn from our successes and setbacks. Deliverables are key project outputs that we submit to our main funder, the European Commission. These outputs are shown here with a D followed by a number. Other scientific outputs include papers and presentations. You'll find links to these on our website. Deliverable 2.2 explores the tools and techniques we can use to engage stakeholders in our research and gather useful insights from them. As well as describing the theoretical application of these tools, it looks at how they were used in practice for some of the early TRANSrisk case studies. The document is intended to help our case study leaders with their research. TRANSrisk is not only producing scientific conclusions from our research, we are also attempting to document our research journey. Outputs such as D2.2 can be used by researchers in other projects to learn from the successes of our approach and the challenges we faced. Deliverable 3.2 is the context of each of our country case studies, 14 documents in all. The context is a description of the current state of play in each of the study countries. It may, for example, describe the current political, economic and energy situation in the study country and what their energy and climate targets are. To support this deliverable, we're developing a mapping tool called Matisse. This helps to produce visual maps of the factors affecting energy and climate policy, which are known as system maps. These can be easier and quicker to understand than descriptive text. Our case study work is being carried out around the globe. In addition to the core European countries, we're carrying out case studies in Canada, Chile, Kenya, India, China and Indonesia. Each case study is focusing on key economic sectors and low-carbon technologies for the country in question. Technical measures are not the only way we can cut carbon emissions. Changes in people's behaviour can also have a significant impact. Deliverable 4.2 explores this potential. Our work suggests that encouraging behaviour change can not only reduce emissions, but do so at a lower cost than common technical measures such as low-carbon energy supply. In addition to cutting emissions, many of these behavioural changes have other benefits. For example, walking and cycling improves people's health and cuts emissions of local air pollutants. Deliverable 4.3 documents how qualitative and quantitative techniques were integrated in our Spain case study. Here we used both models and stakeholder input to develop potential transition scenarios. Stakeholders were first asked for their opinions on temperature targets and their preferences for deployment of low-carbon technologies. These preferences were then modelled and the results presented back to stakeholders. The modelling results showed stakeholders, firstly, whether their preferences were technically possible, and secondly, what their preferences meant in terms of technology deployment and cost. Most of the stakeholder pathways were technically possible, but their cost varied significantly. Stakeholders tended to moderate their preferences when presented with the feedback. So, for example, some stakeholders who initially advocated a 1.5 degree centigrade pathway moved to a 2 degrees pathway when presented with the impact in terms of cost and technology deployment. Deliverable 4.4 examines the co-effects, that is, associated benefits and disbenefits, of climate mitigation action. It's a very large deliverable with 8 separate sub-reports. Areas examined include the impacts on air pollution and human health. Most, but not all, low-carbon energy sources have considerably lower emissions of air pollutants at the point of use than fossil fuels. Deployment of technologies such as electric vehicles could therefore make a large contribution to improved air quality and improved public health in our cities. Other areas we looked at included the impact of renewable energy on land use, energy and water access, and economic impacts. Work Package 5 centres on understanding risks and uncertainties in climate transitions and produced 3 deliverables this year. Deliverable 5.1 is a literature review exploring the research background to risk and uncertainty in climate transitions. We found a strong bias towards research that uses computer models to explore the energy sector. The environmental risks of carbon mitigation policies appear under-researched. Deliverable 5.2 takes this work a step further by counting, categorising and analysing risks explored in both the literature and their own case studies. Again, we found bias in the research focus. The impact of human activity on policy implementation has been well studied. This could be, for example, how not in my backyard style groups seek to block renewable energy deployment. By contrast, the impact of environmental considerations on an energy pathway have received little attention. This could be, for example, how air pollution and fuel sustainability concerns could constrain biomass fuel use. Deliverable 5.3 explores the economic uncertainties involved with climate policy through the use of input variables used in climate models. One of the key findings is that the variable where uncertainty has the greatest impact on climate change is economic growth. As economic growth increases exponentially, in our models small changes have an enormous implication for our future climate. This factor has a far greater impact than uncertainty in input factors such as carbon intensity and radiative forcing. Deliverable 6.2 presents more tools for use in TRANSrisk's case studies. The tools are used to analyse the agency and power of a range of stakeholders in terms of how they can constrain and shape innovation in low-carbon technologies. The Indonesian case study is used to try out these tools. In Indonesia, complex layers of government and social conventions have a huge impact on the rollout of low-carbon technologies. Whilst an action may look reasonably simple on a technical level, practical implementation may be far more difficult. By understanding agency and power among stakeholders, policies can be designed that take account of these issues. This is another deliverable that has immediate application in our case studies, but will also help to inform other research projects beyond TRANSrisk. We have been working hard to bring our initial results to a wide audience. We've produced a range of dissemination materials, from leaflets describing the project to videos on our website. During our second year, we made presentations at two major events, the COP22 climate negotiations in Morocco and the Energy Research and Social Science Conference in Spain. We also organised a special science policy forum at the European Commission to present some of our preliminary work to Commission officials. We're hoping to publish 1 or 2 TRANSrisk books before the end of the project, which will collect together our work along with other complementary papers. Work has already started to collaborate with suitable publishers and to assemble the content of the books. This year, 5 papers relating to our work were published in scientific journals. These papers are all open access, so anyone can download them and learn from our work without charge. We're making efforts to link with other research projects that have complementary themes to TRANSrisk. One example is our work with the EU-funded Charisma project. Here we've joined a consortium of several other projects managed by Charisma to develop a platform that highlights all of our work on climate projects. You can see the results at climatechangemitigaton.eu. This kind of activity helps to extend our outreach activities and provide useful, relevant products for both scientific and policy audiences. In our final year, the project's results will be collected and disseminated. Work Package 2 will produce a report on public acceptance of low-carbon technology using stakeholder input gathered through the case studies. The case studies themselves will publish their final results. Rather than sticking to a rigid template, case studies will communicate their outputs through a number of means. These will include policy briefs, working documents, videos and more. Work Package 5 will continue to explore and improve our understanding of risk and uncertainty in climate policy. Work Package 6 will continue to look into the stakeholder dynamics of energy transitions. This will include analysis of innovation policy and exploration of agency at a micro level. Work Package 7 was the last to start work. It will eventually be responsible for developing the decision support tool for policymakers based on TRANSrisk's work. Finally, Work Package 8 will continue to produce a steady stream of dissemination materials while stepping up our work to engage with key policy and decision makers. Activities planned include a large final conference in Brussels. This will form the centrepiece of our work to engage with policymakers in order to understand how our work can best contribute to the evolution and implementation of climate policy. If you want to find out more about the TRANSrisk research project, there's lots of information on our website. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn and watch our videos on YouTube. You can also contact us directly, either myself, my co-principal investigator Dr. Jenny Liu, or our project manager Ed Durnley. Our dissemination leaders are also very happy to provide more information. In the first instance, please contact Cara Caracosta at UPRC. Thank you for watching this video. Please keep checking back as we continue our research journey.